Hey everybody, welcome back. We just got through another freeze here in Texas, and I hope that everyone out there has thawed out and got through safely. What I wanted to do today is make a video about some winter preps and some things that you might consider doing before the next freeze event. So I'm going to break this up into different sections. I'm going to show off some stuff, so feel free to hit the chapters and skip around. This video will be focused at people who live in houses, who've got garages and have space and hopefully have yards. I will make another video later aimed specifically at people who live in apartments. I've lived in apartments most of my life, and I understand the limitations that you've got regarding space and yards and storage, things like that. So I will talk about those specifically in a different video. All right. Let's talk about power first. Power does lots of things for us. It keeps us warm and keeps our food cold. If you've been out of power for a couple of days, it's a good possibility that you have lost the food in your refrigerator. Let's hit that first, and let me give you my recommendation. This is my beloved chest freezer. They are in stock at Home Depot. This is a 5 cubic foot. They're under $200. What's amazing about a chest freezer is compared to a traditional upright, they use significantly less power. I have other videos where I've actually tested this, but you're looking at 500 or 600 watt hours per day to keep this cold. That will fluctuate depending upon outside temperature, but they are much better about holding in heat since you open them from the top. Cold air sinks, so significantly more efficient. I have these great baskets for stocking my food to make them easy to access. If you've got the room for it, this is my first line recommendation. Because in my new house, my refrigerator and freezer in the kitchen is much bigger than I have in the past, this isn't even plugged in currently. It's just sitting here in my garage. I plugged it in last weekend to bring it down to temperature while I had power, so that way if I did lose electricity in the kitchen, I could relocate my food into it. So for under $200, this is a really easy backup. You can get them used on Craigslist sometimes, but brand new, they're under 200 bucks, and I'll put some links down below to Home Depot and to Lowe's. To keep your chest freezer or your regular refrigerator going, you need power, and that power is going to come in one of two forms: a generator or a portable battery pack. A refrigerator is going to need around 1,500 watts to kick on, but once it's going, it's only a few hundred watts to keep it running. So before you buy a generator or a battery pack of some kind, make sure that its surge capacity is at least 1,500 watts. My best friend in the next town over, who didn't have power for 3 days, learned this the hard way with one of his EcoFlows that didn't have a large enough surge capacity to kick on his chest freezer. How much capacity do you need? Battery packs like Jackery's and EcoFlows are rated in watt hours. It's hard to know for sure without testing, but a good rule of thumb is 1,000 watt hours per day for a regular refrigerator, and probably 500 watt hours per day for a chest freezer. A kilowatt like this will allow you to plug in your refrigerator or your freezer and let it run for 24 hours and see what its actual usage is. These are about $30, and they're highly recommended. If you decide to go the generator route, make sure that you have fuel stored and plenty of it. You also need oil. You have to change the oil in your generator every 24 hours of usage or so. And make sure you've got extension cords. This is another thing that my friend ran into. He was trying to run his generator in his backyard and didn't have an extension cord long enough to get around to the front of the house where his chest freezer was. So check your extension cords and your fuel storage now. If you're lucky enough to have a yard, you may be considering solar. This is a 200 watt solar panel, and you can see how big it is. I am in a rental house, so these are in the garage for right now. I can take them out back and put them on a stand. In Texas, we get about 5 hours of sunlight. So a 200 watt panel will give me about 1,000 watt hours of energy. That should be enough energy to keep my chest freezer going indefinitely. To run your full-size fridge, you'll likely need 2. You'll need to be 300 or 400 watts depending upon where you live. So how do you stay warm? You've got a couple of different options here. My favorite option is an electric blanket. I've talked about it in other videos. Using my watt meter, I have measured that my electric blanket only draws 300 watt hours overnight, which means one of those panels would be enough to keep my electric blanket going indefinitely. This is a homemade battery pack that I have featured in other videos. This is a 1200 watt hour system that I built with an inverter in the front. And I use a long cord to connect to my panels in the back, plug my stuff in up front, and be set ready to go. With no solar, that battery pack down there would run my electric blanket for 3 nights. If you don't want to use a battery pack like that, there are other options out there like propane heaters. This is a Mr. Buddy propane heater. They run around $100 and they're designed to run on these little 1 pound propane tanks. On low, they last about 6 hours, and on high, they last about 4. Okay? This is not going to heat your house. This puts out enough heat to warm about 100 square feet. So this is a bedroom at best. To get longer runtime, they do make adapter hoses to convert a 1 pound tank to a 20 pound tank. There are concerns that adapter hose that goes to the 20 pound tank could leak and you may potentially have an explosion. So you'll have to make your own decision as to what you're comfortable with. The best solution would be to keep that tank outside and run a hose through the window. You can decide for yourself. Here we go. These have been tested repeatedly. They actually have a low oxygen cutoff sensor where they will shut themselves off if the oxygen gets too low. There have been repeated test videos of people using them in RVs with firefighters standing by, and they'll shut themselves off. There's another version of this called the Mr. Big Buddy that puts out more heat, and it takes 2 tanks. Has a tank on either side, so you get better output out of it and a little longer runtime. Regardless of sensors and carbon monoxide, the fact of the matter is with the Buddy heater is you still have open flame, and they do have tilt sensors, so if your cat knocks this over, it'll shut itself off, but you do have open flame on this. Whereas with my electric blanket and solar panels, I don't have any of that to worry about. If you live in an older house, one of your biggest problems will be heat loss through older windows. We ran into this during snowpocalypse 2 years ago because the house we lived in was quite old. Immediately afterwards, I went and got several of these pink foam insulated sheets and cut them to fit exactly in my bedroom windows to keep the cold and the drafts out. Alternately, you can use blue painter's tape and drop cloths to create an air seal around your windows. Cooking. If you're lucky enough to have a gas stovetop, you can manually light it with a cigarette lighter. If you're all electric, you're going to want to have a backup cooking source. I love my Gas One portable camping stove because it uses both butane and propane. Butane comes in these little hairspray-like canisters, or I can use the 1 pound propane tanks that I'm using with my Buddy heater. This allows me a bunch of different options, so if I'm out of one, I can find the other. Some people have concerns about noxious fumes or flammable gases inside, so I would use this in a well-ventilated area. Stay informed. We all use our cell phones for everything, but we gotta have power to keep them charged. I strongly recommend that everyone have a portable USB battery pack to keep their phone charged. These are incredibly handy, and I recommend a 10,000 milliamp or greater. I use mine all the time, and I keep one in my backpack when I'm at work. In the event that the cell phone towers go down, you'll want to have an alternate way to get information. Nothing beats a $20 FM radio that runs on 2 AA batteries. For lighting, my favorite is still a 3 D-cell mag light. I know you might think that they're antiquated, but I get 80 hours of runtime on 3 D-cell batteries with this one. If you have one of those portable battery pack stations with a cigarette socket on it, these 12-volt rope lights go directly into that lighter port and provide a lot of light for hallways, stairs, or rooms while using very little energy. To keep morale up, card and board games are a zero energy way to keep yourself entertained. Tablets and iPads are a great way to download movies, books, and shows to keep yourself going. We also learn the importance of comfort and morale food, so we always try to keep chocolate and other snacks in the prepper pantry. I've got links below to some of the products I've discussed today, and if you enjoyed this content, please give me a thumbs up, a like, and a subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more prepper videos.